Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Police Story, Lockdown, a Chinese-Hong Kong co-production from 2013 that stars Jackie Chan. Detective Zhong Wen heads to Wu Bar in search of his estranged daughter, who is now the girlfriend of the nightclub's owner. He disapproves of their relationship, which leads to an argument between them. Before he can make amends with her, he's struck in the head by an unnamed assailant. Regaining consciousness, he finds himself strapped onto a chair and his hands bound by metal wires. The other bar patrons, including his daughter, have now become captives to a group of bad guys. Alright, so let's get some positives out of the way here. The Wu Bar place, very neat aesthetic. Huge chains are on the outside of the building, similar to what you would see in a gigantic ship with a huge anchor. On the inside, excuse me, it has some old school industrial props, like pipes, metal-looking structures, etc., that are combined with a modern, trendy bar atmosphere. There's some Christmas lights in there, given the time of year that the film is set, and for the purposes of the plot, it is explained early on that this venue used to be a factory, but was shut down for environmental reasons, so somebody bought it, redecorated it into a trendy bar. And looks like a pretty cool place to hang out for sure, but unfortunately, that's the biggest positive to the movie. Lockdown is 1 hour and 50 minutes long, and I started to get bored by this movie by the 30-minute mark. And by the midpoint, I was just hoping it was going to end, really. The use of flashbacks are very awkward, feel out of place. At one point, it's like discussed that Jackie's character was shot by a gun at one point in the past. And then they actually splice in, like abruptly, a 5-second slow-motion gunshot. You know, and it's very, very weird the way they use these flashbacks. Very abrupt, very awkward. And they use it as like a misdirect in how it ties into the story, but it's just weirdly handled. And none of these flashback scenes are properly set up, since the viewer is introduced to these moments when they're already in progress. They're just kind of thrown in to assist the characters as they talk about these past events. And even worse, the action moments that are shown within the flashbacks are interrupted and cut up a lot by the dialogue when they're talking about what happened. So it's really not very good. They also do this thing where there's like a shocking events that's shown, and then all of a sudden they turn back time and say, oh, no, it didn't happen that way. This is the way it really happened. And then it's like, nah. And I'm a big fan of movies that have like that type of misdirect, like that change of perspective type thing. But the way this movie does it is very lazy, and it's not clever at all. And it actually becomes predictable after a while. Because you'll see something shocking happen, and you're like, oh, this didn't happen. They'll rewind the clock again and do something different, and of course they do. There's a mystery component as well, regarding the villain's true motives. Not especially interesting. In fact, it completely derails the final, third of this movie due to an insanely long flashback that tells what did not happen in the past, of course, multiple times, before finally telling us what actually did happen and why the villain has these motives. You know, people sit in a room and they talk about it for like 20 minutes. It's like one of the worst build-ups to a climax of an action movie I've seen in a long time. It's just so boring to watch. Script writing and storytelling in this film, huge plot problem. Huge problem. Also, Lockdown does not feel at home in the Police Story franchise due to its premise and the style of action. This really feels like a cheap Die Hard knockoff than anything else. You know, you get our protagonist stuck in a single building trying to save hostages from bad guys. I mean, does that sound familiar to you? Right? And the action itself is just not good. The editing is way too choppy, both during the action and the drama. And there's like one or two decent action moments in the film, but it's mostly cheap, mediocre stuff. You get a brief fist fight in a scrapyard, rather underwhelming. I think it's one of those flashback scenes, too. There's a car chase shootout. It's okay. A few good demolition scenes. That's about it. There's a brief confrontation with a SWAT team when they attempt to infiltrate the building to save the hostages. And then there's a fight between Jackie and a goon. Very badly edited stuff. There's a random Fight Club fight involving the bad guy, who has, like, red hair in that scene only. Probably the worst fight in the movie. Editing is total garbage. After that, we do get a cage match. Probably the best fight in the movie involving Jackie. The editing is still a problem. But at least there's, like, a slight feeling of intensity to it. And it does last a little while. So I'll give them credit for that scene. It was decent. But the finale's underwhelming. So overall, the action can't save this movie either. You know, there's just no off factor to the action in this movie at all. Certainly nothing memorable. I mean, First Strike and New Police Story just destroy this movie. It's just completely destroy it. And those aren't even, you know, like the best of the franchise, right? Liu Yi and Yu Rongguang have supporting roles. The former gets a lot of screen time and is quite good, as usual. The latter does not get much screen time, which is kind of a disappointment. Jing Tian is also in this. She was kind of increasing in popularity during the early 2010s. She was in the Donnie Yen movie Special ID as well, which came out the same year as this, or very close to this, and I prefer that movie far more than this, actually, even though that movie has its problems as well. And I actually did like Jing Tian in that movie. But this one, is, I don't know, she didn't really do a whole lot. And I would say, like, her makeup in a few scenes, really bad. You know? Very rarely will I give this type of a criticism in a movie production. But some of her makeup during the earlier scenes, I'm like, okay, like, whatever. So, I mean, most of the stuff about this movie is pretty bad. Now, this director, Sheng Ding, has directed a few pretty good flicks, though. I looked at his resume. His best film is probably Saving Mr. Wu, which is a genuinely, like, good movie. And Little Big Soldier and Railroad Tigers are two of Jackie Chan's more watchable films in recent years. So, it's not like this director's, like, a horrible director or anything, but this movie it's just off. This movie's definitely his worst that I've seen. So, as you could probably tell, I do not recommend Police Story Lockdown. It's pretty freaking boring, and there's really not much reason to watch it. Even if you're a fan of the Police Story franchise, I mean, just end at New Police Story. I think, and I may have mentioned this in my review of that one, that's like, it should have been like the true ending of this franchise, and then they came along and did this one, and just kind of very sour taste to, like, end this stuff, you know? But, in any case, if you want to watch it, you can find it online, and I'm not sure, there's probably some physical media out there, but, yeah, don't bother. Don't bother with this. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.